Good evening everybody and welcome to ILR2 Xbox Season 6 for the Japanese Grand Prix. And tonight, joining me alongside in the commentary is James F4 Maestro. How are you doing, buddy?
Hello everyone, I'm well and we're here for the final race before the Christmas break. The Japanese around Suzuka, the only figure of 8 track on the calendar, and championships widened out again after we thought Jork had got himself back into it in Singapore, but Danny took a commanding win last time out, so Jork's going to need something special to go into Christmas with if he wants to have any hope in the last 5 or 4 races after Christmas.
4 races.
We'll say 4.
4 races.
But it's a dry qualifying, but we know there can be wet weather here, so anything could happen in the race. Once again, I don't know what the strategy is. I think tyre wear is probably quite hard around this, quite high around this track, so I don't think we'll see people qualifying on the softs, but I'll probably get proved wrong and everyone will go out on the softs. But yeah, interesting race ahead of us. Unfortunately, low numbers again, only 13, but we can probably still have a good race with those numbers. Lots of competitive drivers in the field nonetheless, and we'll see who has the pace today very shortly.
Indeed, yeah, and obviously this is a race now, which is the last race of this year, of this decade for this tier. So we'll see how things go, and I'm sure every single one of these drivers will want to end this season, end this year in a good way, going into the rest of the season, going into 2020, and particularly people like Jork who are behind. The 39 points I think the gap is now between the two of them.
Yeah,
so he would really want to close it up a little bit going into 2020 and have those last 4 races just give it absolutely everything. But it's going to be difficult. Danny has been supreme this year. You can't deny how good he's been this season. And, he's been superb since his comeback. He came back after a year away from racing, and he's been superb. And he's been a pretty unstoppable force. Jork has had his good races, but it's now pretty much looking good for a Mike, for a Danny victory this season. I think it's looking very much on. And the same in terms of his teammate. Both him and Mike have been working together for that Constructors' Championship, and that's looking pretty much sealed. I think that is nearly there, nearly done. So.
Well, yeah,
we're
Mike
for a bit of a
threw away some points last week. He decided to crash with 2 laps to go, which would probably have been third for him after Ansbas got a penalty on the last lap. So I'm sure Mike won't be too bothered. I think he's pretty safe in third in the Drivers' Championship. And as you say, Mercedes have been the only consistent team with both drivers scoring solid points every week. So they're miles clear in the Constructors. We might have to do some maths because I think it probably can't be wrapped up today, but I expect... Is it Mexico next? It is Mexico next. So I suspect Mexico could be the one for the Mercedes boys. And as I predicted, I'm wrong, and everyone's on the softs pretty much. So Ewan's coming to start his lap now. He's not lagging, unlike last week where he unfortunately had to leave due to lag. But he's looking pretty stable.
Mike's also on one as well.
On our screen, Mike as well. Is he further ahead? He is. He's coming down to sector 1.
Yeah.
As he's cut Dana 1 ever so slightly, but he'll get away with that. Dana 2, very difficult corner, easy to lock up, but he's avoid that bit of oversteer on the curb, but not too major now. This is a horrible corner. Very difficult to negotiate. Mike's done it well. Bit tentative on the throttle, and even then still getting some oversteer, so now head on the flat out run down towards the spoon curve. I haven't seen the whole of the first sector this lap, which is where you can make a lot of time, so I'm not sure how good it is. Spoon looks reasonably decent, maybe could have carried a bit more speed through there. Needs to get a good exit. Short shift to 5th, flat on the throttle. Ride the curb, maybe a bit too much from Mike there. As we now head to 130R, which is pretty straightforward in these cars. It's probably even flat in the wet, if I'm honest. We might see that in the race. And now into the Castro triangle, Mike breaking down into 3rd gear, not wiping out the ball. I was down to 2nd for the second part, straightening up the car. There's a horrible bump there, which he navigates quite well. Not too bad on quality fuel. And to the line, he's the first time on the board, 27.9. I think that's reasonably good, but I think definitely low 27s are possible. So as the track rubbers in and track evolution occurs towards the end of the sessions, I think Mike will be able to improve that, and others will definitely be able to better it, as pretty much does a 29.2, but that was on the mediums. Whereas Danny's coming out of the last chicane. Now, where will he go in comparison to his teammate? and he does a 27.6.
Yeah.
Danny on form straight away once again, and his charge for the title is looking ever more unstoppable. Jork himself says this is not a good track for him, and he's got his finger strapped up in something which is obviously not ideal playing on the pad, so he's got the excuses out already, but regardless of that, I think Danny's pace is looking very strong, as Mexi Fair at 28.9 and New Birch at 31.4 on the hards, the early times coming in, as Twomson does a 28.6.
Yeah, another man who's on lab at the moment is ILR Anspaz. He's shown some pretty decent pace come qualifying in a few of the races, so watch out for him. First hit the completed 32.1, cut to number 1, but you get away with that. And then the 2 rise the curb nicely. And now we're heading up to that very horrible hairpin light corner, which we've seen a lot of moves, particularly by Kamura Kobayashi done in there. He's got a good exit. He's looking pretty good so far, but as we know, early sort of runs in this session, they're not going to be completely optimal with the track grip, and the track will come to the drivers as time goes on. He's navigated through Spoon Curve nicely, and he's got a good run now as we head towards 130R, which, again, as we've mentioned, is so easy flat in these cars. And there's not really a challenge anymore that it used to be. It's renowned for the challenge that it has, but it just no longer is that challenge. Heading into that last chicane now, down into third gear and down into second to get better turning for the second part. And it's not been a bad lap this. It's going to be thereabouts. So 28.2 puts in P3, 5 tenths off Danny and a couple of tenths off Mike. But yeah, not bad. There's not a bad sort of early, sort of initial lap there by the Racing Point. But again, we should see people start to turn it up and give it some in the last, I'd say, sort of 5 minutes of this session. Some people on the hard tyres as well, James. You've got people on the hard, the people on the medium, people on the hard. Jork is actually out there on the hard tyre. So I'm wondering if that's more to get a feel for the circuit. I do not expect him to start on the medium tyre for this race. I'd be very surprised. It's not really... I wouldn't feel it's the best tyre to start on with heavy fuel, and the grip's just going to be nowhere in the first initial phase of the race.
Yeah, I thought it'd be quite a high tyre wear track, but I guess Pirelli have taken that into account and brought harder compounds of tyres, which means it is possible to qualify on the soft tyres, whatever compound that is this week. So yeah, I don't know if it'd be soft to medium or soft to hard in the race. We'll have to wait and see, or it could even be a wet race. We'll have to wait and see on that one. And John H is coming around the final corner to start his lap, who picked up a podium last week, his first podium of the season. Ansmaz picked up a penalty on the last lap, which meant John was able to sneak third place. So he'll be looking to follow that good result on with another one here in Japan, as he navigates the first sector, revving the car out in fifth before shifting down to fourth through the S's. And you can make and lose so much time through this section of track. You need to make sure your line is right throughout, because if you take a compromise line through one part, your line is then further compromised for the next 2 or 3 corners. So you got a bit wide out of Dunlop curve there, and he's been very aggressive over the curve on the inside of a Degnan one, and I think he might have got it invalidated there. But Ewan's also on a lap just behind, and he's negotiating the Degners, presumably with that issue, because he's continuing on his lap as he heads down towards the Kobayashi hairpin. It does have a proper name, but I don't know what that is. He got a bit of oversteer on the exit, but not too bad. And once again, flat out run down towards Spoon Curve. A very satisfying corner, double apex. Can he get it right? Uses 6th, but he's run out, just kept it on the track, but he's not taken the ideal line to the second part, but he's managed to still get on the power reasonably nicely. Hasn't cost him too much, but still not ideal, not perfect for you. And as he heads towards the sector 2 split, it's a 111.4. No delta on that because it's his first lap as we now head into the Castro Triangle. Can he get the car stopped nicely down to second for the first part and gives himself a very wide entry for the second part on the power, nice and early, doesn't get affected too badly by the bump, straight to the line, and it's a 27 lap. Just pips out Mike and 3 tenths off Danny still, but good lap from Ewan. We've seen glimpses of brilliance from him. Monza and Belgium even, he got dropped in the first stint and caught up to the top 2 fighting for the last lap, but he had penalties. And then Singapore's pace was good, but he had to start at the back. And last week he qualified second, but had to drop out because of his lag. So we know he has the pace, he just hasn't really been able to put together an entirely good clean race, although maybe Monza he did finish on the podium there, I believe. So he'll be looking for another one like that today, and he started that off in the right way with a lap to put him second at the moment. And who is on a lap at the moment? Danny.
Pigeon Munch is on one at the moment.
Let's watch Pigeon Munch.
Danny? He's through Spoon Curve. So he was up in the first sector by 4/10 actually. So he's looking on for an improvement of his P7. And again, he's another one who can show very good pace. Middle sector up by 9/10. So he's going to be kind of looking at a top 5, isn't he? As we head into that large chicane. Let's see. Can he hook this one up nicely? He's a good run out of here. And mind the bump that's in the middle, which is just a nasty one. And here he comes across the line. It's a 1:28.2. Puts him P6 just behind Brumson. And yeah, it's not bad. It's there with Brumson and Ansmaz. So he's only a 10th of Ansmaz's time. He can find that in the last 5 minutes, I'm sure. And there's definitely a few improvements in there from the Renault driver too. So he's got time in himself, time in the track, and time in those tyres.
Also with a 28.2. 4 drivers on a 28.2 now. John slots it in 5th, and it's getting very crowded there. John managed to go again after backing out of his first lap, but those tyres will be quite warm, so he'll probably want to improve on that on his last run. Danny didn't
Mike's
improve.
on another one, I think.
Mike's down in the first sector.
Let's keep with Mike and see, because his first lap was obviously when the track was very much green, and he probably took quite a cautious approach to that lap. It wasn't all out and giving it everything. We'll keep on board with Mike and see. He's got a car ahead of him which should get out of the way, and it is Pigeon Munch who gets out of the way nicely. And we head into Spoon now, down into 5th gear, and now into the last second part, down into
he's understeered.
3rd gear.
Well
so
wide
he's
there.
Understeered there. Yeah, it's not that you shouldn't be taking 3rd gear through there. So he's definitely struggled with just taking too much speed. How's his middle sector though? Is it an improvement? It is just about up. It's not a lot up, so he won't be at all satisfied with his lap whatsoever as we head into the large chicane now, and he needs to nail this. Yeah, it's not great.
He didn't give himself a wide entry, and then there's big oversteer on the exit. He might have been able to pit Ewan before, but he's thrown it all away in the last sector. But that's fine. There's still more time for Mike. He knows where he needs to work.
And Smaz as well. Out there.
Smaz is half a second up. If he has a good last sector, he could challenge Danny here. He's taken a lot of curb on the first part. His ERS is already all being used up, so that might cost him on the run to the line. No ERS deployment for this bit.
That's a
and
good
indeed
lap.
It does, but he's very close. But he lost a bit of time in the last sector. Very impressive from Ransmaz there. And he'll be looking to find those extra hundredths to try and get ahead of Danny. But Danny's not alone, although obviously he didn't improve on his second run for whatever reason, whereas Ansmaz had the benefit of a more rubbered-in track.
Now goes 5th. He's been improved by 1.1 seconds, a big chunk of lap time found by the Ferrari driver there. So good lap, but he's got another run left if he wants it. He can come back into the pits, put a new set of softs on, and go for it and find a bit more time if he likes. Who else? Mick Seifer out there at the moment as well in the Ferrari. Is he?
This is a
he's
good lap.
In the first sector. So he's 3 turns up in the first sector. Oh, he's really gone too deep for his second Degner. And that's not the ideal line. But we head into the Kobayashi hairpin. And he's nailed that pretty nicely. Not a bad exit. But there's time to find for him, ultimately. We know that for sure. As now we're heading up to Spoon Curve. And very deep for me. Yeah, he's very deep and deep again. So lots of time to find for the Ferrari driver. Let's see what his middle sector is going to be like. Is it going to be... He needs to be 1 minute 11. And is he going to be 1 minute 12? He's still 2 tenths up, but he's only... It's not going to improve his position, even if he does improve. Does he choose to back it up and put it into the pits and go again on the first set of softs? He might work. Yeah, he is. He pots it in, so he's called that day. But everybody's back in the pit lane, apart from Ewan, who's out there at the moment in the Williams, and Nathan Aitken. Let's watch Ewan, because Aitken isn't really on a flyer. Let's see how Ewan's getting on the first sector. So 31.8 in the first sector. That's mighty first sector by the Williams. Degner 2 has been completed a little bit on the curb on the left-hand side, but he's got away with that. He's now heading into this hairpin, down into first gear, turns it in at second and now third. Yeah, he's gone too deep there, but not a bad exit. And now it's this long run, long wait as we're going very much to the right And now we spoon curve now. We need to nail this down in, actually keeps it in 6th gear rather. And now down into 4th, up to 5th to get a better exit. And that's not a bad run from the Williams as we're heading up, almost uphill slightly and then back downhill a little bit. And for heading 130R, 11.2, so that's not, it's 2 tenths up. It's very close to Danny. Last chicane, he needs to nail this one if he wants to get to the pole position. He's really taking a lot of speed through that last chicane. It's not bad. Now it's to run to the line. Lots of oversteer on the bump there. Across the line is a 27.6. And it's... And you can see where that time was as well. That extra 200ths of a second he had in that lap. And he's not been able to beat Danny. So, Danny looking very good at the moment for pole position. He's still on pole with that early lap. But I'm sure we'll see the best of the Mercedes driver. He's on an outlap at the moment as Ewan has called it a day.
Yeah, he didn't have time for another one.
Watch out for him.
Something to note.
I think Mike can find time.
Jork and Melanie both on the medium, so they're trying something different. We know Jork doesn't feel like he gets the outright pace. Melanie just copying his strategy for whatever reason. So interesting to see how that one plays out for them. But they're probably not really looking at anything higher than 9th and 10th. It depends how quick they are on the mediums. But Danny now to start his lap on provisional pole, but Ansmaz and Mike still to come, who could potentially usurp him from that position as Danny heads down towards turn 1. Flat out through the first part and then down to 3rd through turn 2. Use a bit of the exit curve as he now heads through turn 3. Down to 5th for 4 and then swing the car through this set of corners. Can he get to flow nicely? He's had to use 3rd there. I'm sure that's not ideal as he opens up Dunlop. He had to do a slight lift on the apex there, which will probably cost him a little bit as he runs down towards the Degners, but he is over
matching Ewan.
And he has
to matched Ewan in the first sector.
Degner too. That's a good start to lap for Danny as he now heads towards the hairpin first gear. Ewan was a bit wide here. Danny has absolutely mastered it. No wheel spin on the exit either. This is looking like an almost flawless lap from Danny so far as he heads down towards the spoon curve. Will he go full commitment through here? Stick down to 5th. Don't use that curve as it will invalidate your lap if you run out too wide. But he's understeered through the second part, and that's going to have to cost him all the way up the hill towards 130R. But it's still been a good lap except for that, so he'll probably still be up on his time. And indeed, he's almost a quarter of a second. And he's just got the chicane and then the bump over the final corner to go down into 3rd for the first part of the chicane. Swing the car left for 2nd. He's taken a bit of a tight line through there, and that will cost him a little bit on the run side, but it still looked like a pretty formidable lap from Danny. And it's 27.4. He did lose some time in the last sector, so not impossible to beat it. Mike's backed out of his time. He might go again though because he's got...
Ansmaz is on an outlap. So let's watch for him. He's let the Ferrari go, but Ansmaz to do another lap
on the mediums.
So let's run on board with Ansmaz. Can he outplace and outpace the Mercedes driver here? Here he comes. He can start his run now. He's got to find 2/10 of a second on this lap, and if he does nail this lap, he can outpace Mercedes through turn 1 now, down into 4th gear, turns it in. Actually, that's down to 3rd gear to get a better turn in, and now we're through these S sections in 5th gear, revving it out, and he needs to hug these curbs as much as he can, get a better exit in the better line. He's gone a little bit deeper than he would like to be. Let's see what this first sector is going to be for the Racing Point driver.
Dunlop there.
Yeah, it's not great. Here he comes now. We're heading to Degner 1. He's a 31.9 in the first sector. He's down by a 10th on Danny. Degner 2, he mastered that one. He has. It's not a bad run. And then we're heading uphill slightly, and now into the hairpin. He's got a Ferrari ahead as well, so there might be a little bit of traffic for the Racing Point. He's a good exit here, and he's got a bit of oversteer, but he's got on the power. Not too bad. And now it's a long wait until we head into
John
Spoon.
Goes 5th, improves by 10th. Nathan then beats him very marginally.
Into Spoon curve. He's understeered a little bit. It's not ideal. He's still understeering in the second part, so it's not great. It's not a great lap at all by the Racing Point driver. And now we're going to wait until the second sector. Is he going to be up or down? It's 11.2. No. He's down by a 10th. It's Mike's not good whatsoever for the Racing Point. Last chicane now. Can he nail this? He needs to throw everything at it. Nothing to lose now. He needs a good exit here. He needs to mind the bump as he comes and approaches the line. It's not bad. Here he comes across the line. It's a 27.7, and it's not an improvement in the end. He misses out by an improvement by 200ths of a second. And Pigeon Munch is on a lap as well at the moment. How's he getting on? He's down. He's not going to complete it. So I think that's everybody done and dusted.
Yeah, very interesting. That Bromson's done 4 laps on his soft tyres, which is very weird. So those are going to be in an interesting condition for the race. But yeah, Danny, lap wasn't perfect, but it was good enough to take pole by a pretty convincing margin. If Ewan had another run, maybe he could have beaten it, but there you go. The time's on the screen now. Danny taking pole by just under 2 tenths from Ewan, and Ansper's just over 2 tenths behind Danny. Mike down in 4th, couldn't get a lap in after his first run, which he may rue down there. Nathan Aitken improved at the end to just pick John to 5th, and Mexi Fair actually putting in a very good lap, finding a lot of time at the end of the session to go into 7th and actually jump ahead of Bromson and Pigeon Munch on the 28.2. Then you have the medium runners of Melanie and Jork on 28.7 and 28.9. Jork outside the top 10 will be interesting to see if he sticks with the mediums. Dazzler didn't get a lap in, and Numeric Birch qualified on the hards for some reason, so he's in last. But yeah, Jork down in 11th, Danny on pole, championship slipping further and further away, but you never know, he could have some absolute master strategy up his sleeve. We'll have to wait and see. We'll have to see if there's any rain. I doubt it if people have qualified on mediums, but maybe to come later. No, it's very, very clear. So no rain today, I don't think. And it'll be interesting to see what Jork goes for from 11th in terms of his move in the championship, because he has to be aggressive with such a large points deficit, because Danny's all in control on pole. He's got Ewan directly behind him, but then he's got Ansmas and Mike who'll not pass him, basically. So Danny pretty safe at the front. As it stands, he can let Ewan go if he needs to, whereas Jork's got it all to do from 11th.
Indeed, yeah, and this is obviously racing is racing, and you never know in this that Danny could still have. It's looking pretty good for him, but it's all about that start, and he doesn't know that start. He could be in trouble. So nothing's really over until it's actually over, and Jork still has a shot, I think, getting a very good result today. And Danny, anything can happen in racing. People can be taken out the race, they can spin out themselves. Not saying Danny will do those things, but you just never know, and things can happen. So Jork's got to be in that place where he can definitely take advantage of that, and he needs to be in this place in the championship. He's obviously 39 points behind, so he needs to make up that ground. At the moment, as things stand, we're all pretty much on. It's all looking pretty good for Danny. He's doing the business on circuit. Yes, it wasn't not a brilliant out of this world lap in qualifying, but it was enough to be put on pole. And that's the thing, he's doing enough to pull it on pole. It's not on the limit. He's got that pace to just deliver. Oh, it's Numeric Birch's left session, is that?
He said he wasn't particularly confident with the track, so he may have decided that he's not confident enough to race. I'm not able to invite people back, it never lets me, so we may be one driver down already, which is unfortunate. But yeah, Jork did stick with the mediums, and Dazzler also went with the mediums. Numeric Birch, interestingly, went for the softs, but he's not in the race, I don't think, unfortunately, which is a shame. But 12 drivers, not great, but it could be worse, and hopefully we get rejuvenated numbers after Christmas anyway. But we're approaching the end of the formation lap now. Danny heading into the Castro Triangle, and it'll be him on pole with Ewan alongside him on the front row. Turn 1 is a very interesting turn 1, probably the fastest turn 1 on the calendar, so easy for there to be incidents there. And alongside Hockenheim, that's also pretty fast for a turn 1, so they'll have to see if they can all keep it clean. That could be crucial for the race, especially starting in the mid-pack, and see what happens there. As Danny now pulls up into his grid spot, and it's given me an awful camera as usual. You hate to see it.
Exactly. Here we go, boys. Everyone's lining up for the start of the Japanese Grand Prix. Round 17 of this ILR2 season. And we are ready to go racing here at this fabulous circuit. Lots of history here. And here we go now. 5 lights are on. And it's lights out, and away we go. And pretty even Stevens off the line, I have to say. Ewan not got a bad launch, but Danny also got a very good launch. He leads into turn 1 ahead of Ewan. Ewan is ahead of the racing point, but behind Mike's trying to make up some ground on the racing point. And here he comes. Can he go around the outside? No, he cannot. He'll stay behind. It's now just one way through these S sections, and Aitken looking pretty racy as well behind the Mercedes of Mike Marshmallow. but nothing so far. Pretty much single file through here, no opportunity. But look at Mike now, really right behind Ansmaz here. He's looking for a move, but he's too far back in these early stages. Actually, if anything, Ewan very close behind Danny, 3/10 behind him, and he's not let Danny get away whatsoever. But now Mike really close behind the racing point, but in these early stages, you don't want to be taking any risks. It's too early. As Mike goes a little bit deeper, and if anything, now Nathan Aitken's right on his gearbox, and Nathan Aitken's looking for a move, I think, on the Mercedes driver. He's going to use the ERS, but he's not going to go through spoon curve and go for a move. That doesn't end very well at all in real life, and certainly wouldn't end very well in the game. But here comes Aitken, got not a bad run out of the second part of spoon, as he got enough in the power of the Ferrari power unit. He's too far back for 130R, but ahead is Ewan and Danny. They're really close together. Ewan looking for a move, but he can't. Danny blocks him off nicely. If anything, I think Ewan was trying to find a cutback on the Mercedes. He loses the rear end at the last corner, and the racing point now of it, Ansmaz is right behind him instead. But what a scrap it is. Mike Marshmallow is really under pressure, as now John's looking for a move on the Ferrari to the inside. He backs out of it, and that's very wise. In these early stages of this race, not going for it whatsoever. But everyone's now kind of settled down. It was all pretty hectic. But at the moment, Danny has not been able to get away from the Williams. And Ewan's looking very confident on these high fuel loads and has got decent pace. But there's only lap 2, of course. And now we're heading through Degner 1, Degner 2. And
oh, nice take a bit wide.
It's like
touched the gravel. He's got away with it, but the game does give you a warning for that. But yeah, if you can stick with Danny's DRS, that is crucial, because that's what Dazzler did do last week until he got screwed over in the pit stops. Well, he got penalties as well, but Dazzler was there applying the pressure in the first stint, and Ewan needs to do that in the first stint and then the second stint as well, if he wants to really mount a challenge for the win today, which we know he has the pace to do. As we mentioned in qualifying, we've seen good drives from him so far this season. He just hasn't been able to fully put it together. But on that one, not much movement, apart from, unfortunately, Lexi Fair, after a brilliant qualifying, losing 5 places on the first lap, with Bromston, Pigeon Munch, Melanie, Jork and Dazzler all jumping up 1 place at his expense, which is a great shame, as Jork now actually jumps past Melanie into the last chicane. So Jork making a move here, but that gap to Mr. Pigeon Munch is already 1.1 seconds, with the medium runners dropping off the back of the pack.
Aitken's close to Mike again, but he's too far back again. We haven't hit DRS activation yet, so no movement, and it is difficult to pass around it even with DRS. You have to get a really good run out of that last chicane, and without DRS it's pretty much impossible. So Nathan is sizing up the Mercedes. He's looked pretty good in these early stages, and looking a lot more feisty, and looking like he's got a bit more pace than that, and then Mike at the moment in time, and he cuts the first Degner by a long way. But yeah, no movement yet. It's pretty standard. It's everyone's sort of lining abreast, single filing it. I'm sure we'll see a bit more when the DRS comes to activation, particularly in that top 2 as well, because Ewan sticking with Danny. Danny has not broken DRS, and the Williams is not letting him get away. Ewan has broken DRS to Ansmaz. He's 1.2 seconds ahead of him, so he's comfortable in terms of being able to attack Danny without having to think about a threat from Ansmaz. Let's go back to Ewan and see how things are getting on. And Danny's trying to move out of the slipstream to try and deviate any gain that the Williams can gain in that slipstream. We're heading into the final chicane. He needs a good run here, Ewan, if he wants to set up a move into turn 1. He's looking not bad. He's 6/10 away, actually 5/10 away, but no, he's too far back. He's 5 minutes back, but he'd be the close up in this DRS zone.
Ewan's actually not as quick as Danny. He's had to use a lot of his ERS to stick with Danny for these first 2 laps, which is a good tactic, because obviously he'll now be able to save that ERS, because he has stuck with him and is in the DRS, so he'll get dragged along. But he had less ERS than Danny before the DRS zone, but now he'll be able to save it, as Dazzler and Melanie were briefly battling over 10th. But yeah, good stuff from Ewan. And Danny will not have an easy ride once again, at least for the foreseeable future this evening. But yeah, as well, Nathan clearly not learning from last week, where he got disqualified and is still corner cutting, based on what I saw at Degner 1 on the previous lap. But no penalties for anyone just yet, so although Nathan would probably be the first one to pick one up, I'd imagine. But I'll probably be wrong again. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, it's pretty much Ewan and Danny are getting away from Ansmaz. Ansmaz staying 1.7. He's actually losing a lot of time to the top two. So it's looking like it could be just a fight between these two for the win if things carry on. Ewan again closing up on this straight. He's 5/10 back and he's gaining all the time in the slipstream as much as he can. But Danny, yeah, saving that ERS, seemingly he's using that dividends in terms of defense if he needs to. Needs a good exit from Ewan. Needs a good exit here. If he can get a good exit, he's going to be on his tail, but he's going to be too far back, I fear, heading into turn one. He won't really be able to pull it off, I don't feel. He's too far back, so again, it's going to be much Danny leading into turn one. And Danny knows that. Danny can use and harvest his ERS and use it when he needs to defend, and that's, at the moment, he's doing it on the straights where he has a lot more usable energy than the Williams. The Williams here, look how close he is in his first sector. He's following the Mercedes round and just sitting in the toe of that Mercedes and not letting him get away. But it's that second sector where Danny seems to pull it a little bit, and then they've got that straight heading up to 130R where, again, the slipstream helps the Williams to stay with him. And look at that, look how close he is once again
so
to the Mercedes.
Through Degner 1, as he got a bit of oversteer off the second Degner. He is absolutely on the rugged edge. But I have to respect he's going for it. But will that take its toll at the end of the stint with the tyre wear? Dazzler did pass Melanie this time into turn one, but yeah, what you were saying is very true. Because of the basically flat out nature of turn one, there's no braking zone at the end of the DRS straight, well, turn two, but you can't really get your car up the inside of another car into turn two. So you have to be so close on the DRS straight and basically get the move done before you even get to turn one in order to make the overtake stick, so you basically have to be within 2/10 of them, which Ewan's not quite yet.
Oh, sorry about this, James, but John MH is really close to Nathan, but he's too far back. But John was sizing up a move through 130R, but didn't really happen. Carry on with what you were saying.
I was going to say, Ansmas's pace is continuing to drop. He lost 6/10 or 7/10 on that lap. Mike's coming with him, and Nathan's now starting to drop back from Mike. And John, pace continuing from last week as Dazzler's on the move again, this time past the McLaren of Jork. And Dazzler looking like the strongest medium runner at the moment. He's started behind as John's made a move.
John has got Nathan Aitken. Yeah, I didn't see that coming. That must have been in the S's. Yeah. That is strange.
Either he's been very optimistic or Nathan's made a mistake somewhere, but John can move on now, but he needs to close that gap up. He needs to find that 69 thousandths, get within DRS of Mike, because otherwise Nathan may well have him straight back, as Mike is getting slightly closer to Ansmas. So we saw Ansmas and Mike do some swapping around last week, and I wouldn't be surprised if they do it again this week, especially if John starts to put the pressure on Mike and Mike thinks he's quicker than Ansmas, which is looking the case. John already got that gap under a second, and in fact under 9/10. So John really looking to build on the podium last week and maybe get another one this week, as Danny just maybe starting to stretch the gap now. His ERS still stronger than Ewan's, despite the fact Ewan's been in DRS for a few laps now, which shouldn't really be the case. So I do think Danny has got this under control, even though Ewan is sticking with him for the time being.
Mike, yeah, looking the stronger of the two drivers here of the Racing Point. He needs a good run here. I think he's getting held up, and it's a two. Ansmas is dropping back big time. I don't know if he's struggling with tyres. We're lap 7. He's on the soft. They would have passed their best completely. I do fear that this track, the way how high speed it is, and I fear maybe with an aggressive driving style, maybe Ansmas is really struggling to just try and keep in front of the Mercedes. And I think any moment now, if Mike can get a good enough exit, particularly out of that last chicane, he's going to be easy meat for the Mercedes driver, I fear. But yeah, the gap constantly growing, the top two getting away and just in their world. They're in their own world at the moment. They're just race completely, really stretched it out. And I'm surprised by how fast they've been able to stretch that gap out. It's a 3-second gap from P3 to P2, and that's insane. I've not seen, that's a very quick gap to build on. These two definitely on similar pace. Obviously, that's been because really Ewan is sitting in the toe of the Mercedes driver, and I think it's just helping him to stick with him. Again, it's close as now Bromson gets a penalty for corner cutting and extending. But look how close it is now. Ewan's really close to the Mercedes. He's 4 tenths back as we head into the last chicane now. He needs a good exit here. This is the closest it's been heading into the chicane. So if he can get a good run here, he has a good chance of really putting Danny under pressure. And he's not got the greatest of runs here. I think he's he's just in that toe. He's probably just feeling a little bit of just heaviness in the car. Not close enough heading into turn 1 again. And again, it's now the single file for this rest of this first sector. And Danny does have this under control, but it's a lot of pressure having car behind so close. You know, he's within a second, and he's been within a second for 8 laps of this race, sticking with him, and it's a lot of pressure. If you make one mistake, you've lost position here. So, you know, Danny's got to keep on it. And does Ewan think about the undercut? That's the thing. Does he think about going for the undercut and just trying to get in front of Danny, knowing that track position at the moment has been pretty key, because Ewan has not found any way past the Mercedes at all. So track position playing very much in the hands of Danny. Does Ewan fancy a chance of getting the undercut and then going for that and getting ahead of the Mercedes? I'm wondering.
Yeah, I think it would be a good choice. That he's not really going to come out in traffic. He'll come out behind everyone, apart from numeric virtues of AI car, so that doesn't matter. But I think due to how reasonably tightly packed the field is, he won't get really stuck behind anyone. And Bromson is now really starting to struggle. He did 4 laps on those tyres in qualifying, and he's lost like 2.5 seconds in the last 2 laps.
Oh, as Ewan locks up and nearly hits Danny. That was super close. Really late on the brake. He caught so much up in the toe after 130R that it almost caught him off guard. He's close as he's ever been, but he's too far back heading into turn 1. But that would have really scared him. I'm sure. As Pigeon is gone, he's retired. What's happened there?
I just went on ball with him. I saw him go in the pits, and he's locked it up, and the pit wall sticks out a little bit, and locked it up and hit the pit wall, the bit which sticks out. Not even on the entry to the pit. He's gone past the original entry pit wall, and as you're braking down for the 50-mile-an-hour speed limit, he's locked it up, and on the left-hand side, the wall just pokes out, and just run into that, and his front left tyres come off, which is actually not the first time I've seen someone make that mistake. So easy to make than you might think, but quite embarrassing when you do make it. And Pigeon Munch, unfortunately for the second week in a row, not having a great race, but it's going to be absolutely no point today as we're down to 11 runners in the races. I was surprised he was the first to blink, but maybe he was going for the undercut on Bromson. But that's not going to be possible now, and we're down to 11. As Ewan really upping.
We've also got a good 4-way scrap here. Actually, look at this. Aiken really close to John here. So here comes Aiken now. Does he look for a move heading into 130R? Does he go for it? Has he got enough speed before 130R? Yes, no. He has got enough speed before 130R. He's got that move done. Decent move there by the Ferrari driver, and he's now up into 5th. But it is a scrap between Mike Ansmaz, Aitken, and John MH.
John dives in as well, and Mike's past Ansmaz, and we've completely missed it, so apologies for that. Bromson follows them in, so they go for the mediums, I think it was. Let me check. Indeed they do, so mediums, softs and mediums is the strategy to go for. And I think Danny will probably pit this lap, so that eliminates any chance of Ewan getting the undercut, really. As that's going to make...
Look at this. Look how close he is. Again, he's under 3 tenths as we head into Degna 1. If anything, Ewan really wants to get on with it now. He needs to get an overtake done now.
Dive he's into the opportunity window.
Does he go for it? Does he think... No, not really.
This is a battle. Closer.
Has he looked up? I mean, I'm surprised by this. Has he done better on his tyres? He's been sitting in the slipstream for our first 10 laps of this race. You expect him to have lost a lot more tyre wear than the Mercedes. If anything, he's sticking with him and looking pretty handy in this. As he slides through second part. Definitely. He's giving it everything he's got. He's closing again on the Mercedes.
But Danny doesn't. Obviously, that doesn't mean that much, but looking like Ewan will be coming into this lap, whereas Danny isn't scheduled to, but obviously he can still dive in. Ewan close into the Casio triangle once again. Will Danny dive in? He does. He's got a bit of oversteer as he swings the car to the right, and Ewan follows him in. So I suspect Nathan's probably a bit too far back to hold Danny, but you never know. No, he's going to hold him. No, not quite. I thought he was going to there, but Danny just managed to sneak out, and that would have been disastrous for his race. As it stands, Danny will probably still manage to, if I can actually get on board with him, and indeed he does stay ahead of Ewan, but only just, it must be said, as they will head out the pit lane in net first and second. Obviously, Dazzler, Jork and Melanie yet to pit as they started on the mediums, as we'll see where Nathan comes out in comparison to the people he was around, and he's stayed where he was ahead of John, but behind Mike and Ansmaz. So no real changes in positions in the pit stop window. Mexi Fair also pits, whose race has basically been ruined by being stuck behind the medium tyre runners for the first stint, and he's in last, but obviously Numeric Birch's AI car doesn't count, so that's 11th, not 12th. But yeah, Ewan has managed to do what Aaron Dazzler was unable to do due to some kind of glitch or BS from the game last week, which is stay within Danny's DRS after the pit stops, which means he can continue the attack on the Mercedes van throughout the second stint and the remaining 17 laps of the race, including this one.
Ewan's really making Danny sweat here, I feel. I would have expected Danny to have at least got out of DRS and just be able to control the race. He's not able to really control... He's controlling it, obviously, on track position. But Ewan is just... He's really giving it to Danny. He's bringing the fight. And it's a great scrap here. There's no moves. It's very tense. That's what we're getting. A very tense race between these two. As look how... Look how he... Oh, he's got a penalty. Damn it.
I had just checked the race director and seen that he had 2 warnings. Danny has 1 warning, so not over yet, but that makes Ewan's life a lot more difficult as Mike does the fastest lap on the fresh mediums. But yeah, Ewan's life much more difficult now because this isn't a particularly corner cutting heavy track, so I wouldn't expect Danny to get a penalty. He did last week in Russia, but obviously that is one of the tracks most notorious for corner cutting on their entire calendar. So Japan, not so much so. Unless Ewan can really apply some serious pressure, I expect Danny will not pick up a penalty, which means Ewan has to pass and then pull 3 seconds. And I don't think his pace is good enough for that. But we'll have to wait and see. He's got a lot of time to execute whatever plan he has to do that. But that penalty could prove very costly because it now has to win by 3 seconds as opposed to 1,000th, for example. So it's going to be more difficult for Ewan than it was, but not over by any means yet. Still a long way to go.
Definitely, yeah. And we talk about pressure, and the pressure is on Danny still. I mean, even with the penalty that Ewan has, Ewan can just continue putting that pressure on. And the pressure is there. You know, Danny's a very experienced racer. But when the pressure's there, you can make all sorts of mistakes that you wouldn't normally even make. And now that's what Ewan's got to do. Pile the pressure on. And just hope that Danny can pick up some sort of penalty. At the moment, Ewan won't really know if Danny has a penalty, but he'll have his gut feeling that he probably doesn't have one. But he just got to go for it now. I mean, yeah, exactly. Ask Jeff. But he's close here. He's closer than he's been. He's looking very close, but he's too far back. Oh my days! It was so close heading into turn 2. But yeah, this is the problem with this circuit, and. The straight isn't long enough. It's not long enough to make a move into turn 1, and to the way turn 1 is, it's not natural to make a move into there, and you got to find somewhere else. But yeah, Danny again, Ewan sticking right there under 3 tenths of your head through Degner 1, Degner 2, and Ewan's been very good through here. He's matching Danny the way Danny is and the way Danny attacks. Ewan's very similar. Look how close he is heading into the hairpin, but if they're back, needs to focus on getting a good exit here. If they can just stay within sort of half a second throughout the whole lap and be within 3 tenths, he's got a very good shot. Looking at... look how close he is.
It's crazy. Oh. The slipstream is unreal. I imagine Danny was also saving ERS, but what you need to do is charge up his ERS pretty much to 100% and wear Danny's down as much as possible. And then go for the move and give himself a whole lap in like hot lap or something to try and pull the 1 second
He's closing.
But he might go for it sooner. He still seems to be content on saving the ERS for the moment, as he's all over the curbs and the chicane and the exit's not very good. So Danny's safe for another lap. But I think that should be the strategy Ewan goes for at the moment, just trying to save the ERS.
Is he safe? Is he safe? Is he safe? Here we go! Oh, they make contact, and it's side by side through turn 1 and turn 2, and it's still side by side. But the Williams cannot get past, and I don't know. Was that double moving by the Mercedes there? I fear it maybe was. Ewan had a very good chance there, and he gained so much. He's backed off a little bit. I'm wondering if he's got a... Oh, yeah, and here he comes. Ewan is still far back here, but he's closed back up through Degner 1, Degner 2 coming up again, and Danny's knowing it's coming now, and Ewan is really applying the pressure now. He needs to take chances now, because he's looking like he's in. Both of these boys are in their groove, they're in the rhythm, they're driving very well indeed, but look at this, look how close he is. But he's backed off here. He's not as close as he was this lap ago. And Danny struggling through Spoon.
There's a good exit from
Ewan. Here he comes. Here he comes. He's closing and closing. He's got the slipstream. He goes to the right. Danny defends. He can't go for it and has to back off. And super defense by Danny there. And again, Ewan will have to wait again. Heading into last chicane now. We need to get a good exit. Danny parking it seemingly to try and get the better exit through there, and he has got a not bad run, but look at them, both of them struggling over that bump in the middle of the track. Danny uses the grass on the left hand side a little bit. Now Ewan is closing again.
He's not going to go for it.
He's too far back to make a move.
He's lifting off.
No, he can't go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think on the last lap, Danny just went to the right and then realised he's giving Ewan a bit too much room on the outside of the track, which would have maybe allowed him to swing it all the way around the outside of 1 and 2, so corrected that by going slightly back to the left, and Ewan was diving slightly to the right as well to try and get into Danny's slipstream, and they sort of met in the middle, but I don't think any harm was done. I think Ewan got away without damage, but it may have prevented him from making the move stick, but I'm sure he'll get another opportunity as Ewan's continuing to charge up his ERS, whereas Danny's continuing to have to use it, but there hasn't been a good lap for the Williams driver, a bit scruffy through the Degners, and the gap is extending, so I think he'll have to wait another couple of laps before he gets another opportunity. Meanwhile, Jork's pace is absolutely appalling. He's been just dropping back and back from Dazzler. It was under 3 seconds a few laps ago, and it's now 5.5, so Melanie's stuck behind the McLaren. I'm not sure if he's any quicker.
Let's have a look at Aitken and Ansmaz, actually, James, because this is looking close. Ansmaz is under pressure big time, and he's not looked like he's had the pace in this race. He was on the podium for a bit, and now he's looking very vulnerable by the
Ewan's very close,
here.
sorry. He's going to the outside into the final chicane. Danny's giving him just about enough room, and Danny's done that very carefully. He's slowed it right down into the chicane, and as a result, Ewan's going to have no chance in the exit. As Nathan's gone for a spin. Jork and Melanie kept me well, but I'm not sure if there's contact between Nathan and Ansma. It's possible that Nathan went for a move up the inside of the racing point, and it's just not worked out for him, but now he's a bit in the middle of nowhere, and he's also got no ERS, so I'm not sure if it was a Nathan mistake or a contact between the two of them. I didn't quite catch it. I'm not sure if you saw it, Dom.
I didn't see it, no. I went back to Ewan and Danny because I was getting hyped there. Just action everywhere on that lap there. I didn't know where to look. It looked like Ewan was dropping back from Danny initially on lap 15, and then it's kind of come back for him. But yeah, it's a different race now, because earlier on Ewan was using all of his ERS, and Danny wasn't using a lot of it, and now it's the opposite. Danny's using more of it to defend against Ewan. He's looking a lot more feisty now. He's looking, is he more comfortable on this tyre than Danny? Danny's struggling on this tyre to break away. He's looking a lot more under threat, and Ewan's throwing everything at it. He needs a good exit.
A good line through Spoon once again.
And it's looking good. Has he got enough? Here he comes. He's in the slipstream and the toe. He hasn't got DRS. He'd be using his energy. He goes to the inside, and it's the inside of 130, and he's done that. He's a done deal, but Danny will have to wait again. He's going to try and get a good exit through this last chicane. But what a move by Ewan, and great. That was perfectly timed. Now, has Danny got the exit through the last chicane that he needs? He's in the slipstream, and Ewan is trying to shake the DRS and the slipstream off. Is it enough for Danny? No, it's not. Surely not. And it's close, and Ewan stays in P1, and Ewan takes the lead of the race. And a switch for the lead has happened here in
this lap. very unlikely, but he has to get a second or very close to a second before the exit of Spoon, in order for Danny to not have a chance of coming back at him and doing the reverse of what Ewan's just done on him for the past 5 or 6 laps of this stint, which is not looking like he's going to be able to do. Danny well able to stick with Ewan. Ewan was a slight move to the right before the run into turn 1, maybe put Danny off potentially going for a move. But I think he'll be happy to sit behind Ewan. Ewan has a penalty. Danny will know that. Give Danny a chance to recharge the ERS, and then maybe in a few laps he'll be able to go for it. But the gap's half a second, but that will just get slashed when it comes to the DRS owners. Ewan's run so wide through Spoon there, which will actually give him a very good exit, as well as picking up absolutely 100% slam dunk warning for doing that. But the gap's still 6/10 nearly, but that's not going to be enough. Danny's using his ERS, what he has left of it as well, to stick with him. And after this lap, the ERSs will basically be even-ish, as Ewan's tried to use as much of his as possible to get the gap over a second, which it was a noble effort given the track, but it wasn't enough as the gap's only 6/10. But Danny using up all his DRS now, down into the teens in terms of percent, so maybe you can try and continue the charge to get away from him. He still has a bit more ERS than Danny does, and that would be a potential opportunity. Meanwhile, Mike has sort of started to claw the gap back, although he's got Antmaz now hot on his tail, so maybe the pace has shifted between these two, and Antmaz is faster again, as Melanie just had the fastest lap on
John's looking good too, isn't he? John's right behind Antmaz too. It's a 3-race
scrap
it for P3.
John does, unfortunately. But you never know, Mike and Antmaz could pick up penalties. Antmaz did late on last week. He has 2 warnings actually, although one of those might be for a collision. Mike has 1. I'll check if Antmaz's second warning was for a collision with Nathan.
The gap's now open to a second between Ewan and Danny, and now it's now down 9/10 again. But yeah, it had opened up a little bit, and Ewan is trying to break it.
It's over a second. He's done it.
Yeah, he's done it. Yeah, he's done it.
He needs to find another.
Amazing. Yeah, you need to find another 2, and that's easy said than done against Danny, who is a very good racer over 1 lap and in the race distance as well. He's now a second. What's that?
If he's not within DRS this time, that is absolutely crucial, because Danny's ERS isn't really enough. Obviously, Ewan's isn't great anymore either. They're pretty comparable. But if Ewan doesn't make any mistakes, he's got it comfortably. Ewan's has the pace here. I didn't think I'd be saying that when I saw him just about scraping to keep up in the first stint, and Danny doesn't have DRS. This could be crucial. As Nathan picks up his second penalty of the race, we don't really care about that. And though Ewan has done it, I thought he needed to do it in 1 lap, but he's managed it in 2. Very impressive from the Williams driver, but it's not done yet, because at this point he'd finished 2.8 seconds behind. No, 1.8 seconds. Good maths, James. 1.8 seconds behind the Mercedes driver if the flag was to come out now. So he needs a bit more, but he's done the difficult bit, which is get him out of the DRS.
Oh, as John nearly makes a move on Antmaz through the S's. He did it on Aitken earlier, we believe. He nearly did it on Antmaz. Jesus Christ. That was close. Yeah, as you were saying, it is impressive by Ewan to get that gap out. But it's whether or not he can maintain that and keep edging that gap. And as he's going to be pushing hard, is he going to burn out his tyres? That's the big thing as well. I think that is going to be a factor too. But he just needs to stretch the gap now. It's 1.8 he needs to find. Can he find that time? Danny, meanwhile, will try and recharge his DRS to try and close back up again, because I'm sure Danny would want to win this race on circuit. He wouldn't really want to come second, but win it on penalties. I'm sure he's the type of guy that will want to win it across the line. It's a done deal.
Yeah. I think Ewan should have waited longer. I think he went for the move too early. Oh, John gets close to the back of Antmaz, because he had a bit of extra ERS which he could have saved up if he waited an extra couple of laps. Obviously, he saw the opportunity and maybe thought, I might not get another one like this, so I should go for it now. But if he saved that ERS up for an extra couple of laps, worn Danny's down a bit more, obviously it would have given him less time to pull the 3-second gap, but he would have had better facilities in order to do that. And as a result, maybe would have had a second chance. Dazzler passes Nathan, who's in a spin.
Oh, Aitken's gone again.
Must have had contact with the Red Bull, and he has to wait for Melanie to go past, and drops down to 10th. And that's why it's so difficult to overtake into turn 1, because stuff like that happens. Well, I didn't actually see it, but I assume as Danny picks up a penalty. Unbelievable.
It's even Stevens. It's even Stevens James. It's 3 seconds for both Ewan and Danny. But as Ewan got more, I'm guessing he would have more warnings than Danny on the second penalty. So Ewan, I'll be asking his engineer, has he got? Yeah, the Ewan needs.
I don't know how he doesn't have a second penalty. He's got so many warnings.
It's crazy. So Ewan's in the driving seat here for victory. 7 laps to go, gap 1.4, and Danny
he just
now
needs to
not
not pick
everything.
up any more warnings.
Exactly.
Danny won't
but now
know how many warnings Ewan has. But
no,
Ewan knows that he's 1 warning away. And Danny now knows that he needs to beat Ewan on track as it stands, unless Ewan picks up another penalty. But he will have no idea how close Ewan is to that. He may have seen a couple of track extends from Ewan, but that's beside the point. He won't actually have an idea, and the gap continues to extend. It was another 10th on that lap, and Ewan does seem to have the pace. He just needs to make sure he looks after his tyres. His ERS has dropped a bit below that of what Danny did. This is Mexi Felix of a 5-second penalty. That's a very weird one. But even if Danny does get within a second, he needs to have the time to give himself enough ERS to make the move, and time is not massively on his side. Sure, he has 7 laps left between this one, as he does cut down one there. But when you consider the gap is currently reasonably comfortably over a second, he then has to get within a second, save the ERS, and make the move. That's not any easy feat, especially given the pace you're showing, unless his tyres completely die, which is obviously possible. But we'll have to wait and see on that one. But Ewan looking good. Danny, the pressure of Ewan getting past him, he didn't even need to stick with him. He just, relatively stick with him. He just needs to stick within 3 seconds. I'm sure his pace would have been good enough, but he's got flustered. He's got focused on sticking in the DRS, and as a result, he's picked up 2 warnings in relatively quick succession, which has awarded him a 3-second time penalty, which at the moment puts Ewan in the box seat to win the race. As we'll come by this time round for 6 laps to go. Danny cuts the second part of the chicane. He's really giving it everything, but Ewan actually hasn't taken any time on that lap because Danny managed to close up 2 tenths through the final chicane, which means that it was pretty even in terms of laps time that time by. As John and Ansma are still close. Mike just hold the cork in the bottle here, seemingly, and Aaron Dazzler's on the way on the stock compound tyres, admittedly slightly old stock compound tyres at this point, but they'll probably still be quicker than these lots. So Antmaz and John need to think about getting a move on, because Mike was only 3.6 seconds behind Danny a lap and a half ago. It's now 5 seconds. So Mike is experiencing a drop off for some reason. Maybe Danny told him that he had a penalty, and Mike was like, "No, we can chill for a bit here. Don't let anyone get within that penalty window." But I don't think Mike or Antmaz would have gone in it anyway, and John also has a penalty. So I don't know, maybe Mike's just made a couple of mistakes as Danny has the gap down to 1.2 now, really starting to make a chance. Is Ewan's ERS dwindling? It's 22%, Danny's 30%, so still reasonably comparative.
Pretty even,
Yeah, Danny's going to have to basically use up all of it if he wants to get within DRS, which he may then drop straight out of if he doesn't have enough ERS to stay there. So Ewan's still looking pretty good as it stands. John is in 5th, not fighting for the win. But
yeah,
maybe
he's fighting for the podium still, I think. I mean, well, Mike's obviously hasn't got any penalties, but you know he's there in the fight. And Antmaz definitely doesn't have. I think in comparison, John has better pace overall than Antmaz in this race. Antmaz does have good pace, but he's not looking like he's hooking up the complete lap. As now Antmaz is closing again up to Mike, but again that gap is too far. He's not close enough to make a move on Mike heading in for turn 1 and turn 2, and he's just stick behind him. And it must be so frustrating just looking at the rear end of that Mercedes for so long. Obviously, Ewan did it, and Antmaz is now doing it for 3rd place, and he's just sitting there, just hoping that Mike makes an error of some sort. As now look at this, like in the S's, Mike pulls it, and now John is closing back up again. So Antmaz under threat from John in here, and John's looking very much like he wants to get a move on. And it's not over yet. John, if he can get in front of Antmaz and then get in front of Mike, then you know he could pull the gap if he needs it. But it's gonna take an almighty effort to do that, and I'm sure he'll be using a lot of his ERS to just stick with these guys and just try and close up the gap.
That's almost within a second as well, I'd like to add. So he could be joining the party very shortly.
He definitely will be on those fresher soft tyres, and he's going to be one to watch. It's going to become it's a three-way scrap at the moment, but it's now going to become a four-way scrap as the Red Bull has really closed in. He's 7 tenths back now, and he'll have DRS for the next DRS zone. So watch out, because he's going to have a lot more confidence in that car than the three ahead of him, because he's going to have so much more fresher tyres. As now Ansmaz is practically pushing Mike through that final chicane. He's 3 tenths behind now. It's pretty close. It's closer than it's been for a bit. Has he got enough momentum? Here he comes. He goes to the left-hand side. Round the outside he goes through the first corner and second corner, and Mike goes deeper, and that's naughty. That's very naughty.
I think that's okay. He didn't force him off the track. He just compromised his line.
Ran him out, I suppose. Yeah, I suppose.
Fully alongside. If he would be more alongside, I would have said it's naughty, but Mike still just about had the upper hand, I think. As John now shaping up a move into Degner, but Ansmaz blocks the line. There was never really going to be anything anyway through there. But yeah, Mike in the previous acts had been able to sit in the middle of the road and not really given Ansmaz anywhere to go as Nathan is spinning. I think him and Steve Fair had a crash, and Steve Fair's now into the wall. Dunlop. And Nathan will
I want to turn our eyes back to John and Ansmaz, because John's right on the back of Ansmaz now. Goes to the right-hand side. Oh no, he does not dare to go through there. It's not possible. The second part of Spoon now. He's looking for any sort of chance, because he's got a Red Bull in his mirrors who's really quick too. And this is getting good. A four-way scrap for third place. Oh, this is good. This is good. Here comes Dazzler to the inside. No, he kind of half commits, doesn't do it.
The podium is well and truly on for Dazzler if he's clever with his moves, because to my knowledge he doesn't have a penalty. I'm about to check that and probably be proven wrong. No, he doesn't have a penalty.
Ansmaz again to the left-hand side, round the outside. Yes, no. He tries to go around the outside. He's too deep. Mike's deep too, and Ansmaz can't get the move done. He's stuck behind the Mercedes.
Next time round.
Yeah.
If he's sensible, he'll think that the outside hasn't worked twice. Might sort that one covered, so have to switch it up maybe and try the inside. Meanwhile, Ewan is very much in control here. 1.6 seconds, 3 laps, 2.5 laps to go, and it's going to be. Wow, I can't quite believe it. Penny picked up a penalty, almost cracked under the brush though. So he probably won't like me saying that, but we'll have a chat about it after the race. Steve Fair pits. Ansmaz has touched Mike.
Oh,
through the hairpin.
Yeah, he got so close to the hairpin. He outbraked himself. Here he comes!
As the run of the pair of them.
And here comes John! Here comes John! He goes round the outside, Mike to the inside. John has got it done! Out of nowhere, opportunistic as you like. John MH moves up to third place, but he has a penalty, of course. And as Ansmaz was messing around with Mike and colluding with him, John has taken and picked up the pieces and gone, thank you very much. And here comes Dazzler. Dazzler's going for it. Round the outside of Ansmaz. He's going to go around the outside. Turns to the inside for the second time. Ansmaz is still there. They touch. And they're still... Here we go. Oh, he's lost the rear end on the bump. And Dazzler, I think, should... Or has he? Because Ansmaz is on the inside. He has a lot more ERS, seemingly. And he's got past and stayed in front of the Red Bull driver. I'm amazed.
Short passes Bromson meanwhile for 7th, but Dazzler will be furious about that. That was crucial that he managed to make that move work and stick there, but he was unsuccessful. Ansmaz defended it well, stuck with him through both parts of the chicanes. No!
Oh!
Ewan's thrown it away with 2 laps to go. And Danny will end up picking up the win here. As Dazzler's going to have a look into Degner. Ansmaz covers the line again. Nothing really doing there, as we discovered earlier. As Ansmaz now picks up a penalty, which means he'll drop behind Dazzler as well. And means John is closer to getting the podium, but he still needs 2 more people to pick up penalties in the last couple of laps. Ansmaz blocks Dazzler's line very well, maybe trying to make up for what he lost on the last lap.
Exposing though, he's looking how close he is.
Into Spoon, around the outside. I don't think he's going to be alongside enough. And Ansmaz is in fact able to shut it off. As Ewan needs 1.2 seconds on the last lap. I think it's very unlikely.
Here comes Dazzler on Ansmaz. He's closing and closing to the inside. Oh, they bang wheels. It's contact. It's contact. Even more contact, and that's silly. That's so silly. And he's lost his front end plate. Mamma mia.
They're just getting
I don't know what to say about...
too aggressive there. I think that's a bit of both of them being silly there.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'm not going to apportion blame to any of them. Dazzler will probably come out on top between the pair of these if his front wing damage isn't too bad, because he'll be within 3 seconds of Anstos come the end of this lap. But he may not be within 3 seconds of John, which means John will once again take home a good result. It won't be the podium this week, but it may well be fourth, as John has to get up to 2.1. He's got 2 corner cuts to use on this lap if he's getting tactical. But I don't think it's going to be enough, and I think Danny is going to end up taking this one home as a result of the post-race penalties, which will not be the way Danny likes to win. Danny wants to win on track, but Ewan, I thought we were going to get an 11th different winner. I'd check the standings to see how many winners we'd had this season, but it's going to be Danny in all likelihood, unless something horrible happens in the last sector. It's going to be Danny taking home his 4th winner of the season if all goes to plan. Gap's up to 2.2, but it's not going to be enough. Ewan will take the win on track, but unfortunately for him,
here he comes.
He's given it everything he's got, but it's not been quite enough for the Williams driver. He rounds the Casio triangle one last time through the final corner. He gave it absolutely everything, but unfortunately the penalties going to come out just short. Ewan takes the win on track, and it's going to be Danny who takes the win on penalties. His 4th win of the season and 1 more step close to the championship. John H will come home 3rd on track, but he'll be relegated
Mike in 3rd
Mike,
instead on penalties.
And it'll be Dazzler in 5th, Anspas down in 6th, Jork finishing 7th for the 2nd week in a row, as Danny now
Melanie gets 8th
to 58 points. Melanie jumps 1% on penalties, and Nathan is quite some way back in the final points playing position.
Has he got the DHL? I'm wondering if he's going for the DHL. He might be. He's on soft.
I think
so. He's going. Is there fresh?
Dazzler has the as the fastest lap, but yes, as you rightly point out, Nathan followed Seafair's footsteps and also pit for the fastest lap. He's the 2nd up on his best, and he'll be taking home an extra point if he can negotiate the Casio triangle. He's run out of his ERS already, so he's been using hot lap a lot. I think that navigates the final corner of the lap now over the bump, doesn't unsettle the car too much, and to the line. He does indeed get the fastest lap, as we now wait for Seafair, who was probably also going for the fastest lap, but his teammate had other ideas about that, and this lap's the 2nd down on his best anyway, so it's not going to be the fastest lap. Unfortunately, Seafair will be the only driver who fails to score a point down in 11th, and he may actually end up behind Numeric Birch, his AI on penalties, which just says enough about how badly his race has gone. And Seafair finishes in 11th and does get relegated to 12th, but Birch will go down into DNS, and Seafair will get his 11th place back. Not that it means anything, but very, very unfortunate for you in there. He was so close, and even with the penalty, he was still only less than 4 tenths away from taking it, but it is an all too familiar sight as of late. Danny on the top step once again, and it is his 4th win of the season, as I mentioned, and the championship lead up to 58 points. I'll have to check that Mercedes haven't taken the Constructors' Championship, but unfortunately Mike's not updated the standings for 3 weeks. What are you doing, Mike? So we don't have the maths on that, but they basically won it, so congrats to them. And we'll get the podium citizen, although probably not Ewan, because he's probably fuming. But there we are. We have the results on screen now. It was Danny taking the win on penalties, Ewan in 2nd, Mike in 3rd, thanks to John's penalty, who did manage to edge out Dazzler due to whatever the hell him and Ansmas were doing on the penultimate lap. Ansmas down in 6th due to his penalty, and Jork in 7th, which means he takes an even further hit in the championship. Melanie in 8th on his return after a couple of weeks off. He didn't have much pace either. He was ill, apparently, so that's his excuse. Bromser down in 9th, and Nathan Aitken running out the points. Numeric Birch disconnected before the race started. Seafair 11th, and Mr. pretty much crashed into the pit wall, which is quite funny. And he'll also pick up no points this week, and we'll try and get the top 3 in the party. Danny is here already. Congrats, Danny, and Mike is here. Let me invite Ewan, but I'm not hopeful of him joining.
Come in, boys. Evening.
Mike, I have a question.
Yeah.
Why have the standings not been updated since Monza?
I've moved into my new house, so I haven't been
We're
able
trying to
to do
work out
it.
if you've won the Constructors' Championship or not, but we haven't been able to do it due to...
I'll try and get it done over the weekend, 'cause I got long weekend off, so I'll do it then. But I've been moving
yeah.
house and stuff, so
Yeah, that's fair.
yeah.
I don't think Ewan's joining, understandably. He's probably quite pissed off. So we'll get started with you two, and if Ewan joins later, we will have a chat with him as well. So include your audio and all of that. And Danny, your fourth win of the season. But unlike the others, you weren't actually first on track today. Just talk us through what was a race-long battle with Ewan both on the track and then with the timing screen when it came down to penalties later on.
Yeah, it was really. I actually really enjoyed it. In the first stint, I kind of felt I had the edge. I kind of had the exit out at the final corner, but for some reason I used so much fuel in ERS in that first stint. I could not get it back. Just simply because I think he could just stay in the slipstream and didn't have to use much. So I used a lot then, and then we both pitted together. And we come out the pits and I had the same issue, and he had a run into 130. Oh, fair play, he got it, and then my DRS broke as soon as it broke when I was on the first stint, which I don't see why the game still does that. But then when he got past me, I thought, right, I'll stick with the DRS this time, and then mine broke. So he got it about 1.3 seconds, and we were just trading at the same time. I think at one point, I think it just stayed at the same gap. And every lap, you could probably ask Mike. Every single lap, I was asking Jeff, penalties, and then I got one myself. I thought, I've ruined that. So I kept asking him, and then coming into the last chicane, Jeff said 6 seconds, and coming across the line, I can't remember if I had two more ones or one. So, but coming across the line, the gap was 2 seconds. I thought, just don't lose a second, and I think he put his best lap of the race in, and it was 7/10 quicker than mine. So I was just trying to be extra cautious, and I'd completely ran out of everything. No fuel, no ERS, but in a weird way, I still think I deserved that. I think he got a bit lucky with the DRS breaking, and then we had the same pace, and yeah, really enjoyed the battle. So yeah, I'm fairly happy. I would have liked to finish first on the track, but I got the less penalties, so it is how it is.
Yeah, exactly. Dom and I were both very surprised when you picked up a penalty. Was that a bit of pressure with the DRS not working and just trying to stick as close to him as possible, or was it just a couple of silly mistakes which happen from time to time?
Yeah, the first one was silly. The second one was equally silly, but I think I got the first. No, yeah, I think I got the second two when I was behind him. Yeah, so I tried to get a better exit out that chicane to keep with him, and then into the Degner. Yeah, it was just a bit of pressure, I think. So, but I had a feeling he would maybe get another one for the end of the race. So Jeff got a little bit sick of me asking time after time.
Finally, it's another 19 points out of Jork in the championship battle. So you're now 58 points clear. That's over 2 race wins going into Christmas. So you must be feeling pretty safe sitting at the top of the championship.
Yeah, it's a nice feeling. It's nice, especially like you say, going into 5 weeks off. I'd have hated to have had a bad race and then not race for 5 weeks. That would have really wouldn't sit well with me. So yeah, I'm quite happy. And when I seen Jork start on a different tyre, or try to start on a different tyre, at first I was confused, but Jork can just pull these magic strategies out of nowhere. So I thought he's obviously trying something different, and I don't know how his race went, but yeah, I'm feeling fairly confident.
Well, congrats once again, Danny,
Thank you.
on your 4th win of the season, and Ewan has still not joined us. So we'll move on to Mike in the third, who managed to redeem what was an interesting race for him last week, but it got a bit tense in the last few laps. Ants Maz appeared to tap you into the hairpin, and it all got a bit chaotic. Talk us through your race as a whole, but especially those last couple of laps.
Well, like you say, last week in Russia, I crashed out. It was kind of I didn't really want to be racing because I had other things to be doing, and it was kind of I got too eager to get Ant-Man, and then yeah, made a mistake, crashed, blah blah blah. But yeah, it was interesting. Trying to break the DRS was impossible. I used quite a lot of my rich like Danny in the first stint, so I was using it when I needed it, and I was basically in none until the third sector, or like just after the hairpin, and I was using overtake and high. But yeah, as soon as that man tapped me, I was like, fuck's sake. And then, yeah, I just couldn't get John back, but luckily he had a penalty. So, yeah, it was when Ant-Man tapped me, I was a bit annoyed because I thought that was, podium gone, race over, considering I'd fought so hard by saving everything I had to, defend in the final sector. But it was very chaotic in the end, but I'm happy to be on the podium again. It's been a long time.
Yeah, well, because you haven't updated the standings, I don't know how close you are to Jork. But it is second place.
I think.
Okay, maybe not then. We'll have to work that out after Christmas. So we'll say.
Yeah,
I don't have any more or many more questions here, I'm afraid. But we'll say you won the constructors. I think it's a possibility. No one else has two drivers who turn up every week. So congrats on that, guys. And if you haven't won it, you'll get a congrats again after Christmas in Mexico. Yeah, I think that's it from us.
To his teammates.
Yeah, I really want to get 1-2 as well.
4 races left. That's all there is to say. But yeah, that's it for us, guys.
That's the new year, isn't it? Yeah,
Thank you very much for staying with us for this race and any other races you've watched for the first 3 quarters and a bit of this season. But that's it from us in 2019. Have a great Christmas and a happy New Year, and we'll see you for the remaining 4 races of the season in 2020.
New decade. I think